Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' war with Disney escalated from words to action when Governor signed into law a bill stripping the company of its special tax status, which for decades has allowed them to self-govern the land its resorts and theme parks sit on. Governor DeSantis essentially going straight for Disney's jugular, angered over the company's public denouncement of Florida's HB 1557 bill, which prevents teachers in kindergarten through third grade from discussing sexual orientation and gender identity with students. But while the move to dissolve what is called Disney's Reedy Creek Improvement District, which is essentially the Walt Disney World Resort, was celebrated by many of the governor's supporters, there is increasing concern now about the fallout for Florida taxpayers, many of whom could now be expected to shoulder the cost of providing the public works and emergency services that until now Disney has maintained for itself. And apparently, they'll also be on the hook for an additional $2 billion because under state law, the two counties that absorb Reedy Creek, Orange and Osceola counties, will also absorb the district's bond debt. That figures to be an additional tax bill of between $2,200 and $2,800 per family of four in those two counties. The law is supposed to go into effect June 1st of 2023. Republicans had said that that would give state legislators time to work out the kinks, but local officials on both sides of the aisle now admit that it is likely nowhere near enough time to make such a massive transition. There's also the fact that Disney appears to have strong legal grounds to fight this in court. There's the First Amendment challenge that DeSantis is retaliating against Disney for its political speech, and then there's a weedier argument based on Reedy Creek's right to fulfill its obligations to its bondholders until its debts are paid off, and yet another existing law prohibits lawmakers from dissolving these kinds of special districts unless they go inactive or they have the landowner's consent to do it, which obviously Disney's not doing. But apparently there was a way to avoid many of these practical and legal pitfalls while still allowing the governor to make his point loud and clear to Disney. Joining me now is Sarah Rumpf, who has been writing about the story in depth. She's a contributing editor at Mediaite.com, which I founded. She is a native of Orlando, went to law school at the University of Florida there, and has spoken directly to many on both sides during the course of her reporting on this. She just published the article titled, quote, "Another version of the Disney bill would have let DeSantis accomplish his political goals without trampling on free speech or the Florida economy." Sarah, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right, so what was this sort of middle ground that the governor could have pursued that would have made his point to Disney without it having all the negative economic or legal impact?
Well, thanks for having me on. What I wrote about was an amendment that Senator Gary Farmer had filed, and he's a Democrat. But I'm still kind of shocked that the Republicans didn't take advantage of this strategy, because what his bill would have done, instead of dissolving Reedy Creek on June 1st, 2023, it would have ordered, there's an agency called the Office of Program Policy Analysis and Government Accountability. It's basically the research wing for the Florida legislature. It would have ordered this agency to conduct a study of what dissolving Reedy Creek would mean for both local and state government and the private sector, and to turn in that study on December 31st of this year. So they could have had that going on and used that as a bit of a crowbar to influence Disney through their lobbyists behind the scenes, instead of this absolutely insane, probably illegal, probably unconstitutional, probably violating the state's pledge to municipal bondholders mess of a problem they have. They could have done all the same political campaigning that we're striking back against Disney for opposing us without causing the legal problems. How do you, I mean, from Disney's side, you can't really say it's a First Amendment retaliation if what they're doing is conducting a study. Of course, the government has the right to conduct a study on what their own statutes mean and what their own existing structures mean. You can't stop them from doing that.
So is it really, though, that dire for the people in Orange and, Osceola counties if this goes forward?
Absolutely. Look, I moved back to my hometown last year. I live here in Orlando. I'm in unincorporated Orange County. That tax increase of $2,200 to $2,800 for family of four is just the start. The problem, like you said, many people have commented that there's no way to do this in a adequate and prudent manner in just a year. But if the legislature does not repeal this bill in their last special session in May, or a court doesn't strike it down very quickly, Disney has due diligence and fiduciary responsibilities to their shareholders. Reedy Creek has their own internal due diligence requirements. Both Orange and Osceola County have due diligence requirements. They will have to start conducting studies on how to do this. And because the state law and county law structures are different, they can't just cut and paste the 1967 statute. That same structure doesn't exist. There are things where you can create like mini municipalities called community development districts. There's another municipal taxing kind of thing that can be done, but that's only for unincorporated county areas. There are also two cities incorporated within the Reedy Creek district, Bay Lake and the Lake Buena Vista. The majority of the valuable development, like the theme parks, is within those city boundaries. So again, this is a very complicated legal problem that by everybody I talked to, the estimates were hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in legal fees. We're already strapped right now. The tourism traffic is down. We don't have the income that we've had. The tourist development tax alone is still not up to what it was in 2019. So everyone I talked to at both counties was freaked out because having to pay for this means they have to cut budgets somewhere or they have to start cutting services. So,
but Sarah, as you know,
directly from the bond, it's just a start.
as you know, though, the political support that Governor DeSantis got for this and for this measure, from his perspective, might have been worth it.
Well, here's the thing: he got support for the parental rights and education bill. That's true. But since the details have come out about this bill, especially because they cannot defend that they're doing it out of prudent government. They've all admitted they didn't call anybody with the county. They all admitted they didn't call anybody with Reedy Creek, et cetera. Yeah. People hear they're going to have a massive new tax bill. People hear about the job losses that this is going to cause with the upheaval with Reedy Creek.
And now it's shifting. Yeah, it's shifting the conversation. I hear you. I hear you. And I think
polling on this.
Yeah, I think your piece. I think your piece was so interesting because you were providing what could have been a roadmap for DeSantis and his supporters to still go after Disney without creating all of these problems, as we talked about. Sarah Rumpf, thank you so much. Great reporting on this. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.